guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I thought it was something. I'm on my phone tonight, so.
That was Peter's dog, not a problem with your phone, Leroy.
I'll take it away from him while I'm speaking. So.
No, it's fun. It's a good distraction.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it. Welcome to the April meeting of Brooklyn Community Board 6. We have a relatively brief agenda tonight, so we'll move forward with that. I see that Assemblyman Bobby Carroll is here, so if he wants to begin by making some remarks, I would invite him to do so.
Thank you so much, Peter, and good evening, Community Board 6. It's good to be with you all. I hope everyone had a good Passover and Easter, and hopefully everyone is well, and spring is coming, and hopefully people have been getting vaccines. If you're still looking for a vaccine and need any help, please always feel free to reach out to my office. We have no special powers, but folks who have internet issues or other issues, we'd be more than happy to help and try to set up appointments. Very quickly, just last week we passed the state budget. It is the largest state budget in New York history. We were able to provide record funding for our public schools, to provide funding for excluded workers and undocumented workers in our state who didn't receive unemployment benefits during the COVID outbreak. We were able to get record relief for small businesses, the arts, and really so much more. For renters, for homeowners, for landlords. It wasn't a perfect budget, and there is still work to be done, but I really have to say, rarely am I a homer for everything we do in Albany, but what the budget looked like in December when we were given a briefing on what the state deficit was, and the fact that we did not know what the relief package that the Biden administration and Majority Leader Schumer and the New York delegation was going to come up with for New York. It was stark. It was stark even if we were able to raise taxes on the very wealthy and corporations, which we were able to do in this budget. But because of the relief we got from Washington, D.C., because of the ability to raise taxes on really the highest earners, folks making $1 million or more in income a year, and corporations that have profit, that are profitable, large corporations that are very profitable in New York, we were able to do a whole lot. I'm very excited about that because obviously there's lots to rebuild. We have children who lost a year of learning because of blended and remote learning. We have businesses that have been shuttered. We have folks who are behind on rent and mortgage payments and property tax payments. And hopefully what we did in Albany last week will bring relief to all of those folks. If anybody has a quick question about the budget or anything else, I'd love to answer, but I don't want to take up any more of your time.
Thanks, Bobby. I appreciate it. Can I have a motion from the floor, please, to approve the minutes of the March meeting? Remember to
So
unmute yourself.
moved.
Motion from Suzanne, second from Bridget. Any objections, please note them or in the chat. Otherwise, we will presume that the minutes are approved as presented. I'm going to move on to my chair's report. First of all, we have two new committee chairs. We had a vacancy on community development, so we've asked Samara Trilling to take over that position. She's been on the community board since 2018. And in her professional life, she's a software engineer for Just Fix NYC, which helps build tools to help tenants and their advocates organize for stable and affordable housing. So we think that she is an excellent addition as chair of that committee and an excellent addition to the excuse me, to the executive committee. The other committee chairmanship is based on the request that Mark Shames made to stand down as chair of the Land Use Committee. So, excuse me, in his place, we're going to appoint Alex Sharonbeck as chair of the Land Use Committee. Excuse me, I won't embarrass Alec by reading all of his credentials, but I will say he's a lifelong resident of Brooklyn. He lives on 11th Street, and he has served as counsel to Speaker Nancy Pelosi in a very notable election voting rights case. He has clerked for Supreme Court Judge Stephen Breyer, and he was most recently appointed as, excuse me, to the New Jersey Office of the Attorney General as a deputy solicitor, representing the state in some of its most sensitive and significant matters. He also has a good bit of land use experience when he worked for Manhattan Borough President Scott Stringer. So we welcome Alex as chair of the Land Use Committee. I'm going to
I know Mark wanted to say something, I believe, on that matter.
Yeah, I just
go,
wanted.
Mark, go ahead.
I just wanted to comment briefly. I've been doing this a long time. I am a senior citizen, still capable of doing important work if I want to, but I think it's time to bring younger people forward, people who have tremendous ability and who can really add a tremendous amount to the future work of the community board. And I for one have done this in a political club before and in other places before, where I think starting younger, vibrant people, frankly, I feel like I'm minor compared to Alex's accomplishments, and I am so pleased that he's taking over this position. I am not leaving the Land Use Committee. I am not leaving the chairmanship of the Waterfront Committee. I'm still on the community board, and I'll still be an advocate for those things I believe, and a thorn in the side of those who don't believe in what I believe, but lovingly and civilly. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, Mark, thank you for your service. We truly appreciate it. Mark took over for me when I was elected chair of the community board, and he's done a very excellent job. Speaking of landmarks and land use, some of you may be wondering what's going on with the Gowanus rezoning. City planning has been meeting with the judge in an attempt to work out a solution. They spoke with us about it. I don't know all of the details and what they're finally going to agree to, but it should involve an outdoor hearing, probably in J.J. Byrne Park, with facilities provided by city planning. I don't know if there'll be a tent or what exactly it will be, but it will allow everyone who wishes to come to attend. But we will probably also use the school for indoor, for people who prefer to be indoors. And we also don't anticipate that hearing will result in a motion. What we'll do is we will take testimony. We'll ask the committee to listen in either in person or via Zoom. And then we will ask them to have a subsequent meeting when they look at the testimony and make a recommendation as to what they think Community Board 6 should do. I don't know what the exact timing is going to be, so we will we'll wait to hear from the court. Although I know city planning is plans to certify relatively closely after they reach an agreement with the judge. So that is everything I have to say right now. So I'm going to pass it off to Mike Graciopo, our district manager, for the district manager's report.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Mark, for your service. Welcome, Alec. I know Peter shortened his credentials, but I'll share some of his publications, like in the New York Times and other places. And I think I'm pretty confident him and David will be a great team over at Landmarks Land Use. I just have a couple of brief things that I've been working on. I know most of you have been hearing from me pretty regularly. First, I just want to maybe this is getting back to pre-pandemic passions, but I very much like, oh, I'm sorry, hang on. I actually forgot, this was in my notes. I forgot to thank Samara for not only setting up the, for all her work. Technically, she's explained certain things to me that I know she's involved with software development and things like that. So I'm really excited to have her be involved in an even more concrete way. And, the interpretation we've offered at the past few meetings, and I believe tonight as well. Anyway, this is a pre-pandemic passion of mine, carrying around voter registration applications. So this year, much like last year, the no excuse absentee, I'm not sure if Bobby touched on this at all, but no excuse absentee ballots will be available. I will put them in the chat. And for the June 22nd primary, you can apply up until June 15th for an absentee ballot. And of course, we have ranked choice voting. And on that front, we are working with a few different organizations, possibly host an informational session on ranked choice voting, because, despite the fact that it was overwhelmingly approved, I know anecdotally, just talking to people, they don't necessarily know a ton about it, but it is an important option that we'll have this year for the first time. And in June, we have the mayor's election, the city council elections. And on that front, I know that we've been in discussion, I've been in discussions with the Parks and Civic Council about promoting and creating something of a candidates forum on that for all parties and what have you, for the respective council districts that overlap with, so that would be the 39th and the 33rd with the Parks and Civic Council and CB6 and things like that, but nothing definitively set up yet. And that is roughly all I have to say. But if you want to hear more from me in a typed out fashion and not as many tangents, feel free to sign up at brooklyncb6.org or text BKCB6 to 22828, or send me an email, Mike@BKCB6, and say, add me to your list, and I'll know what you mean. Thank you, and I'll turn it back to Peter.
Hey, Peter, quick.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that.
Oh, hey, Samara.
I'm back.
Sorry, hey, I just wanted to make a note about interpretation. Thanks, Mike, for all of your wonderful words. Just wanted to note that normally we do have interpretation, and to thank our wonderful interpreter, Bibiana Koyamani, who's normally on the line with us tonight. Due to technical difficulties, tonight we actually don't have interpretation. Just wanted to set the record straight on that and say that we will for the upcoming meetings. And if you do know folks who would like to attend and would be wanting language interpretation, we currently have this in Spanish, but we can explore this in multiple languages. So please feel free to reach out to Mike or myself if that's something that we should sort of have folks in the community should know about this. So looking forward to expanding that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Sorry, let me just go back to the agenda.
We have EWCDH is up first, I think.
Yeah, Economic Waterfront Development has a motion. I don't know who's presenting that, so I'll invite whoever it is to please come
Ariel.
forward and address it.
Hi,
I think, hi, Ariel.
this is a motion in support of the Gowanus Dredgers Club, Canoe Club application to DOT for a temporary full closure as part of their open street program on 2nd Street between Bond and the Gowanus Canal between 10 a.m. and 9 p.m. on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And that they will be putting up the barriers towards the cul-de-sac at the end of the street, because there's a parking garage on that block. So they will leave that open. And this was, we had 10 votes in favor, no nays, no abstentions. And this was they did a lovely, quite spirited presentation of all the work they've done over the last year. And this was in support of that work and to enable them to have the end of 2nd Street that ends at the canal to be car-free.
So thank you very much, Ariel. Are there any questions for Ariel on this motion?
I have one, and it has more
Sure.
to do with what are they planning to do on the street in light of the work that's being done on the canal? You can't very well canoe at the moment.
Well, they have a very robust schedule of performances. And in fact, after their presentation, I went the next weekend and they were doing sea shanties and poetry at that corner, right at that end there. And in fact, people were, the park ends there, but then people were sort of milling out with kids on their little stroll, on their bicycles at the where it ends in a little sort of roundabout. So I guess it would probably just stop cars from making U-turns there or something and leave it free and clear for kids on bicycles and whatever other activity will spill out from the park along the canal.
Any other
Thank you.
questions for Ariel? Hearing none, we'll call the question. If you are against this motion for any reason, please note so in the chat. Otherwise, everyone else is in favor. I don't see anyone, so we're going to presume it passed unanimously. There are two motions out of landmarks and land use. One is a land use, one is a landmarks. I don't know who's presenting those.
David, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. First, I just want to say, I want to thank Mark. It's been a pleasure working with you, Mark. You've taught me a lot, and I'm glad you're staying on the committee. And I fully expect you to be a thorn in my side, because that's how I learn to be better. And Alec, I'm hoping you will be a thorn in my side as well. And maybe I'll be a thorn in your side once in a while, but I'm really looking forward and excited to work with you on the committee. And Samara, welcome. I know we don't know each other too well, but I'm glad to hear you're taking over the committee chair position. So, Ty, do you want to throw up the 14th Street project? Okay, so this is like one of those landmarks things that I'm not sure why it came to us, but here we are. It's in the Park Slope Historic District. We'll just focus on these two images for a moment. On the left is the original conditions of the house at 441. Please note the driveway and where the edge of the driveway is, and then the first section of fence to the right of that. And then if you look at the photo on the right, you'll see that the fence turns 90 degrees and the driveway got a little bit wider. And as I recall from the applicant, this was a misunderstanding. There was some sort of misunderstanding, I think, from Landmarks about what to do about the fence. So they went ahead and built a new entry. There's a lip there at the front yard. You can see at the edge of the bluestone. That fence that's turned 90 degrees actually has a piece of bluestone attached to the bottom of it. So when it swings, so if we go to the next image, keep going, this is location, keep going here. So right now it's in its, I guess it hasn't been, this is existing, so it hasn't been put in yet. Go to the next image. So here it has been put in. So that fence actually can close, swing, so it's coplanar with the existing fence, and then maintain the original narrow driveway opening, which you can sort of see delineated by the concrete paving and the sidewalk. And so this is the solution that the applicant came up with. It's a movable fence. I'm not sure how often they actually swing it. I guess so it closes the opening a little bit. And go to the next image. There's a snowy image. There it is on the right in its closed position of detail. That piece of bluestone on the bottom there actually does move with the fence. Next image. And these are just some other, I guess, precedents.
That's it. That's it, David.
All right. So we approve this unanimously. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for David? I can't see you, so you're going to have to speak up. Oh, there we go. Anybody for a question for David on this? Okay, hearing none. We're going to presume that everyone is in favor of this unless you note your objection in the chat or any reason for abstaining. And if it's abstaining for cause, please say so. Otherwise, we're going to presume that you are in favor of this. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you, Peter.
And who is going to present the land use issue?
I believe I will, Peter.
Okay, go ahead. Al.
And first of all, I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve as land use chair, and I want to thank Mark for schooling me in a lot of this stuff and not going anywhere. And I'm really excited to work with the whole committee, and I know we have a lot of big things in front of us, and so I'm excited about that process. Ty, if you have today's application. So this actually isn't the first time the applicant here came before the land use committee. They first came in January, and then we asked them to make some revisions, and they did. The application is for a variance in Red Hook on Coffee Street to allow for a new single-family home in what is an M1 district. But although this is a manufacturing district, the historic use on the site was residential. And I think it's fair to say that the block is, if not predominantly, has a lot of residential use. It may even be predominantly residential. The existing residential building on the site, though, at least according to the applicant, and a structural engineer backed this up, is structurally unsound. And so as a result, the applicant is coming here asking for, the old residential building where it's sound would be grandfathered, but now they need to seek a variance to permit a new residential use on the site. And it's a 3-story project. In January, the committee identified a number of concerns about the proposal. We said the proposal originally had a curb cut in the front and a more substantial setback to allow for a on-site parking space. The committee was also concerned that the exterior finishes wouldn't be consistent with the neighborhood character. And at our March meeting, the applicant came back and nixed the curb cut and the parking space, reduced the setback, and the applicant came back with exterior finishes, this brick finish you can kind of see here, that would be fairly consistent with the look and feel of that block in the neighborhood. Now, one of the criteria, because this is a BSA variance, is that the proposal is in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. And to the extent the committee debated this proposal, it was about whether the setback that's still here is appropriate. Some people, didn't like that it is set back and breaks the street wall. Others sort of took the view that the block already has a lot of discontinuity and other setbacks here, and there are other setbacks maybe like it in the neighborhood. Ultimately, there was a motion by Jerry, seconded by Madeline, and with a friendly amendment by Bob. And it recommended approval as presented with a note that the property is not large enough for a viable manufacturing use. I believe the lot is 25 by 100. So there was not a lot of debate about whether this could be a viable manufacturing site. So I think that's it.
Thank you, Alec. Does anyone have any questions for Alec on this motion? Anyone?
So could I just,
Sure.
just in terms of the vote, there were 2 abstentions and there was a vote against. And I was the one who voted against it for the reasons that Alec described.
Great. Thank you, David. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Hearing none, please, if you are against this motion for whatever reason, please note so in the chat so that we can record your vote against it. Otherwise, we'll presume that you are in favor of it. And we'll track, excuse me, we'll keep track of them from the chat. Great, thank you very much. David is voting against. It's the only one I see. Okay, we have a motion from permits and licenses, and that would be Rachel.
Yep. Hi. Okay, so just to preface, I was not at the meeting, but I'm presenting. So this is 223 Smith Street, which is the corner of Butler the owner also owns Verde Lounge, which is right across the street. It's going to be, they intend for it to be soup, salad, and simple fare. They'll only have recorded background music, no backyard space or outdoor space. Their hours will be 10 to 11 Sunday to Thursday and 10 a.m. to 1 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. There was a local resident that was present who asked about outdoor seating, and the applicant said that they may consider a sidewalk cafe license when they become available. And they might do some tables and chairs under the temporary COVID measures, but don't plan to build an enclosed structure in the street. And so there were no other questions or concerns, and there was a quorum, and so the motion was approved unanimously, 8-0.
Great. Thank you, Rachel. Does anyone have any questions for Rachel or anyone else on the committee about this since she wasn't present? Eric?
Rachel, I'm assuming there were no complaints against their other restaurant across the street?
No, there haven't been.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
This is Daniel. I don't think it was stated actually that this is a liquor license application. Just so that it's clear that that's what it is.
Thanks for that clarification. Any other questions, anyone?
I have a
Oh,
question.
I'm sorry, Judith.
I was wondering, when they have the COVID restrictions, can't they keep these things permanently? I mean, won't they have an outdoor space permanently once they start with the COVID stuff? I don't know the answer, so.
Actually,
I'm
I
asking.
don't,
You mean like outdoor seating on the street? I think that is going to be made year round, but they have to apply for it through DOT the same way they would now.
From what at least what the minutes say is their intention was not to build something
Oh,
permanent.
yeah, sorry.
They
I meant if they were to.
they were gonna just have some tables and chairs, but not to have an enclosed structure on the street the way that some of the other places. So, yeah. But it looks
Any other
like,
comments
looks like
or
Eric put
questions?
something in the chat about the,
I think McClure put up a New York Eater article. I just saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
So just to finish up on this motion, if there's anyone who is either against it or wishes to abstain, please note so in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to assume that you are in favor of this motion. Great. Thank you very much, Rachel. I appreciate it.
thanks.
Now we're going to hear from representatives from elected officials. We have Donna from Joanne Simon's office.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here with you as always. I really enjoy these meetings. You probably don't believe me, but I actually do. And I'm coming to the Transportation Committee meeting tomorrow night. I just want to also say that we hope that everybody had a great holiday and that we're so thrilled to see all the evidence of spring here in the community. We are also thrilled to be seeing so many people get vaccinated. And again, if you're having any issues with that, please let us know. Most of the issues we're seeing resolved. A lot of people were reaching out to us. There were some issues with some of the pharmacies, but it all seems to be ironed out now. You can continue to contact us if you're having any issues with unemployment. I will say that if those of you who are on this Zoom tonight, we know that there is still quite a backlog. with unemployment, responding even to our outreach. And we also learned that the Department of Labor is going to be also handling all of the paperwork having to do with the workers that were covered as a result of the budget. So their workload is going to increase. And so therefore, if anyone is having any issues with unemployment, please do reach out. Don't wait. Let's get your query into the queue as soon as possible. Okay. In terms of the budget, you heard Bobby talk about, this is a historic budget. I do have a little wrap up that Joanne made that I will just slide into the chat in a little bit. Overall, I think that, the conditions of this year led us to a more favorable progressive budget for the city. The federal aid could not be coming at a better time, and we need all of it, if not more. And that we know that there is additional work to do. A lot of education funding happened, but not quite so much in higher education as we would have liked to see. So there's still a lot of work to do with education funding and environmental justice. One final thing I want to mention is that Joanne will be having a dyslexia awareness day. If anybody in the community is interested in that topic, I have a save the date, which I'll also slide into the chat. We would love as much participation as possible. So please do reach out. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Nicole from Brad Lander's office.
Hi, everyone. Hope everyone's having a wonderful evening. Our office was, of course, distressed to hear about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, but we did have a briefing with the City Department of Health today, who kept assuring us that, of course, not all hope is lost. And as I'm sure you've all heard, the pause in the distribution of the vaccine is really out of a big abundance of caution. Many folks have questions about the homebound vaccine program, which relied on Johnson & Johnson, and we'll be sure to keep our eye out for any developments. That being said, like the other offices here, if anyone needs help signing up, we now have 40 volunteers who'd be more than happy to help. We have a sign-up form that I'll drop in the chat. And in some other more fun news, today is actually the last day to vote in participatory budgeting for District 39. Really big shout out to the amazing volunteers who really helped make it happen this year. We're one of the few council districts that are still moving forward during a really difficult year. We have lots of exciting projects you can vote on, and whichever receives the most amount of votes will get the funding. So there's projects focused on schools, parks, outdoor events, lots of great stuff. I'll include the link for that in the chat as well. And you have until midnight today to vote, so please do so soon. And finally, I just wanted to make sure folks know about the new Summer Rising program. It's a free summer program for kids K through 12. And if you want to participate, or your child wants to participate, the application's open on April 26th, and I'll send information about that as well. That's all.
Great, thank you. I saw Dan Wiley from Representative Nia Velasquez's office.
Thanks, yeah. Congressman Velasquez, they're back in DC now voting, and obviously there's been a lot of activity. We're looking forward to infrastructure bill. We won't know more details. The ideal way is that the different appropriations committees working on different aspects are drafting up their bills, and hopefully we can wrap them into some bigger bill that then we would try to get passed. As people know, infrastructure is being defined broadly to include a lot of social stuff, social infrastructure, community safety, and public housing. And that was a thing that, as you know, the Congressman had her bill to fully fund public housing. Getting housing and affordable housing as part of the infrastructure package was key. And while it is good that it is considered part of the infrastructure, she's not satisfied that the funding for public housing is only half as much as her bill would get. And so she is advocating very strongly to fully fund public housing, and NYCHA in particular. The other deadline, I know the councils had their participatory budgeting. You know, we in Congress, Congressman Velasquez and their colleagues haven't had appropriations earmarks and special projects since 2010. But for fiscal year 22, we are having an opportunity for members to request community projects which benefit the community. And it would be earmarked in the appropriations bills. We don't have any guarantee that it'll go through, but we have this process opened it up in the House side anyway. And we are taking community project funding requests through the Congresswoman's website, which I've circulated to like 150 community-based organizations. They have to be nonprofits. The deadline for our office is this Friday. So I know some groups are working together, and examples of kind of projects, you know, there's like 12 different subcommittees in appropriations. You have labor, HHS, education, for instance. And so, you know, workforce training to, you know, secondary, post-secondary education projects. An example would be dance theater, etc. We secured some funding for them in fiscal year 2009. Red Hook Community Justice Center. We had through Office of Juvenile Justice, violence prevention for a program. Actually, since that program, ACS reformed how they do, how they treat kids, and it's improved. So, you know, there's all kinds of different categories of funding. So if you're not aware of that and you're interested in more, just reach out to me, and Mike can forward you on to me if you want to get the Congressman's link for that. And the last thing I'll say is that, you know, the rash of gun violence that had popped up at the end of last year, and we want to hold off. You know, the Congressman held 2 forums on public safety, and we really want to make sure that all the resources that could be brought to bear come, particularly for Wyckoff Gardens, Gowanus houses, and Warren houses, which, you know, seem to have less programming, say, than Red Hook. And we really want to bring resources there, and also feel that the mayor's office and the mayor's action plan should actually have a map, what they call a map, which they have in Red Hook, should also have that for Gowanus, Wyckoff, and Warren, the WWG. So those are some of the things. And also for Gowanus Canal, EPA has come out with a number of unilateral administrative orders on the city to ensure that the overflow tanks are built in a timely fashion and be completed by 2029, which is an expedited time frame, believe it or not. So I know that there's also some order the EPA came out with recently regarding CSOs and stormwater control on the overflow side. So those are some of the things the Congresswoman is focused on, and it'll be on the lookout. We'll have some workshop opportunities coming up, and in the latest package, some of the programs, the shuttered business program, the restaurant program, the shuttered business, the shuttered one is delayed due to a vendor error with the SBA, but it is a grant program for cultural ticketed type venues to get grants. So it's not, you actually get to it through the small business development centers, and those are what can help you. SBA can't help you because it's a grant program, but you can go on the website to actually work out having all your credentials and get a docs number and stuff like that to be able to be ready to apply when it does go live. So if you're interested in more information on that, we can be in touch. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Dan. Greer from Senator Kavanaugh's office.
Hello, everyone. Yes, this is Grim Mayhew from Senator Brian Kavanaugh's office. Thank you so much for having us and having this meeting. So I do have a few updates. from our office. I know it was mentioned before about the state budget. And as most people know, the state budget was passed and was signed into law by the governor last week. And there's a few points in there that the senator, our office would like to mention. One is the COVID-19 Emergency Rental Assistance Program, which is similar to the COVID Rent Relief Program, but to pay rent and utility arrears of tenants who have experienced financial hardships. In the budget is a total of $2.4 billion, including $2.3 billion in federal funds and $100 million in state funding to expand eligibility beyond those covered by the federal rent relief program. Also, the senator actually sponsored this bill. Additionally, there was capital funding in the budget earmarked for public housing, which includes $200 million for NYCHA capital repairs and renovations. There's also some funding for homeowners who suffered financial hardship during the pandemic. The mortgage forbearance was extended to December 31st, so the end of the year, or until the expiration of the COVID-19 emergency order. Also, I believe last month, the day right after our last meeting, the senator joined 58 of his Democratic Senate and Assembly colleagues in calling for the resignation of Governor Cuomo. As we all know, in the meantime, our Attorney General Letitia James is conducting an investigation of all the allegations against the governor, and we will be monitoring that as well. And I believe that is all from our office. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I saw Matt Baer from Senator Myrie's office.
Hello. Hi, everyone. Just a quick update. I will not be the fifth person to give you a recap of the state budget. I think you've heard enough. Agree with everything my colleagues said. There is one point I do want to raise, actually, just going back to something that Dan Wiley mentioned about gun violence. So in the budget this year, Senator Myrie wrote the Community Violence Intervention Act, CVIA, which does two unique things related to gun violence. So number one, it makes New York State the first state to officially declare gun violence a public health crisis, which is something that President Biden did on the White House or in the Rose Garden a few days later. So New York State leading the way there. And then kind of resulting from that, addressing this crisis with dedicated funding for violence intervention groups. So community-based groups, hospital-based groups that work all over Brooklyn and all over the state to combat gun violence with non-police interventions that have a proven track record of working with folks in the community, deploying credible messengers to stop the cycle of violence before it creates more victims. And unfortunately, last week, there was a horrible shooting in Brownsville, in the other part of our district, which claimed 4 lives and sort of underscored the need for this funding. So our office was extremely proud to support CVIA in the budget and commit an ongoing, not just a one-shot, but an ongoing source of funding for these groups. Plus all of the other things that we talked about in the budget. We every week post vaccination information and testing, COVID testing information. Testing is, the rates of testing are down in the city. And so we want to encourage folks who are not yet vaccinated, which is most of us, to continue to get tested. Don't slouch on that. And walk-up vaccine sites are available for folks that are 75 plus. This is not something that's super well known, but people that are 75 plus can go to several sites. We post that regularly, and I'll post it in the chat, to get a shot without an appointment. You can go walk up, you can bring a companion with you. So a kid, a younger person who's eligible otherwise, a relative, a friend who's also eligible, and they will get vaccinated too. And so at Albee Square Mall, Brooklyn Army Terminal, those are a few of the local sites where you can go and get vaccinated without an appointment. And finally, the senator is hosting an event with Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer on April 29th, and I will post information about that in the chat as well. Our office is ready to serve. That's all. Thanks.
Did I miss? Oh, I'm sorry, Edward from the mayor's office.
Hello, everyone. Edward Cerna, Brooklyn Borough Director for the Mayor's Office. I believe my colleague at Lander's office, Nicole, spoke about the vaccine and the J&J issues we've been having, but there is good news with the bad. Last week, the city vaccinated over 550,000 people, which was a really tremendous milestone. And we have over 5 million vaccinations done. The city's on track of getting its goal of 5 million fully vaccinated New Yorkers by June. But as we know, with the stop of the J&J vaccine, the city's calling on the federal government to increase the doses allotted to us of Pfizer and Moderna so that we can fill in the gap. The J&J vaccine was being used for the homebound program, and so that is currently suspended through this Sunday, but we will be leveraging and arranging like transportation for those folks so that we could get them to the nearest vaccine site. We are seeing some positive effects already. 61% of our seniors, for instance, have received at least one dose of the vaccine. And Dr. Chotsky said today at the Avail that we're starting to see hospitalizations drop as a result. So while this setback might cause some apprehension, the fact remains that vaccines, do prevent severe death, severe complications and death. And is a positive thing. As always, you can check nyc.gov/vaccine finder, or you can call 877-VAX4-NYC for appointments. I think I'll leave it at that. My email is ecerna@cityhall.nyc.gov. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I think we've covered all the representatives of elected officials.
I've got a question.
Sure.
For Nicole, I'm just curious what the response was for the participatory budgeting this year. I'm just curious to get a comparison with previous years.
Yeah, I don't have last year's numbers, but I could tell you the most recent numbers we have as of Monday. We had 3,600 people voting, but we'd love to get thousands of more, especially we find that a lot of folks tend to vote right before the deadline. So please keep them coming.
Thanks. I believe I saw at least one person who wanted to speak at community session. Is that person still here?
Yeah, we have two, Peter. So
okay.
First is Ann through Gwen. I'm gonna unmute you now. And
you have up to 3 minutes to state whatever it is you want to talk about.
Hi, everyone. My name is Antoon Wing, and I have been a resident of Park Slope and Community Board 6 since 2009. I'm a tenant at 70 Prospect Park West, where I have lived for 11 and a half years now. That's on 3rd Street in Prospect Park West by the entrance. Folks in my building have been living here, current tenants, since 1966. My neighbor Rory moved in 1966 at age 10 and has raised his family here. So there's a lot of long-term tenants. So I just wanted to lift up to everyone that in the past few weeks on March 19th, our building was sold to Greenbrook Partners, a predatory equity firm that has displaced well-loved Park Slope businesses and residents in Brooklyn. On their website, they say that they target investments in underperforming, poorly maintained, mismanaged, and undercapitalized assets located in growth-oriented and transitional submarkets of New York City. So immediately following the sale on March 23rd, I received, as well as several others in my building, about 9 other units, 90-day notices to vacate by June 30th. And I've been in contact with commercial tenants of Greenbrook that were forced to close during COVID, Demise Spa and Du Jour Bakery on 5th Avenue. And I know that in our building, rent has already, there's one unit that's vacant and remodeled, and they've raised the rent to $8,000 per month. My unit is a 3-bedroom and it's $3,350 a month in comparison. The building is a rent stabilized building. There's at least 10 rent stabilized units in the building, and we're concerned that the building might be up for demolition. We are not sure. We formed a tenants association very recently, and we started meeting. We've retained an attorney. And we've also started doing research. So I want to really give appreciation to Samara at JustFix, because I've been spending a lot of time on the JustFix website these past few weeks to learn more about what Greenbrook Partners is up to. They have at least 48 buildings in their portfolio. Our building has not been included yet because it's such a recent purchase, but 852 Classen was recently purchased by Greenbrook. And they've purchased 28 buildings in Brooklyn in the past 6 months, the majority of them in the CB6 area. So this includes 503 to 509 12th Street between Prospect Park West and 8th Street, as well as 225 13th Street between 4th Avenue and 5th Avenue. So I wanted to bring this to y'all today in CB6, just to know that this is happening in our community, that displacement through predatory equity that has been occurring in Black and Brown communities throughout New York City and perfected there is now coming to Park Slope, is coming to Windsor Terrace and South Slope and Gowanus. So I wanted to come to you to just ask if you've dealt with Greenbrook in the past, if tenants have come to you, what protections we have, and who we can connect to in order to make predatory equity companies like Greenbrook less influential and impactful in our neighborhoods.
Your time is up, but I believe there are some prohibitions, against some of the things that they're doing. I'm not an expert on them, but if you contact our district manager, Mike Rassiopo in the community board office, he can put you in touch with some of the resources that are available, including your local council member's office, who should have some information that might help you as well. Again, I'm not an expert on this subject because it's been a long time since we've had this kind of thing, but I think there are some things that can be done. And as I said, Mike can try and facilitate putting you in touch with the proper people.
If I could just pop in for a second, I just want to let you know I actually just got an email today from someone named Julia about 70 Prospect West. And if you'd like, definitely pass along your email to me as well. Our plan was to also connect you to legal services, but it seems like you got that covered. But we're also going to flag this to DHCR too, and maybe we can get you guys in touch with them as well. So definitely pass along your email to me.
Put your email in the chat and you can pick it up.
Can I
Again,
mention, Peter, just one additional thing? There's an organization you may be aware of called Housing Rights Initiative, which is doing a lot of empirical work around the city to connect some of these actors that are trying to displace, especially rent stabilized tenants, to see the patterns, to put it together for DHCR, because they do such a bad job of policing the real estate industry themselves. And so if you haven't already gotten in touch with them, I know some folks there that I could help connect you with.
And one of our members, Bridget Ryan, said she might also be able to help you. So again, Mike can put you in touch with all of these people. So contact him and I'm sure he'll be happy to help, and we'll do what we can.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe we have one more speaker.
We have a couple more hands that popped up, Peter. So I'm just going to go in order that they came up. First is Blake Hyatt. I'm going to allow you to speak now.
Good evening, community board. First onto that's a horrifying story you just told. If you do drop your information in the chat, I'm also connected to a couple of tenant advocacy organizations that might be able to help you similarly to everybody else's feedback. My name is Blake Hyatt. I live at 18 Butler Street. I've lived in the neighborhood for the past 23 years. My family is from this neighborhood. My mom was born and raised on the block in the house that I'm from. In the past several years, a city bike station was installed on our street. And a couple of weeks ago, we got word via some no parking signs and some phone calls to follow up and find out what they were about, that city bike station was going to be expanded. We'd had no word from anybody on this committee. We'd had no word from the DOT that this was planned. There was no communication with anybody in our block association that this was happening. The planned city bike expansion, it turned out, was going to be crossing in front of several households that had elderly folks, living in them, that have folks with handicap access issues. And plan, when we spoke to the DOT about it, had apparently been approved by the community board. The DOT deferred to the community board on this. We reached out to the community board. Nobody at the community board answered us. Any of us, when a number of us sent emails to ask what was going on here and whether we could get some feedback and an opportunity to try and figure out a different way to do this. There's a double wide sidewalk immediately adjacent to this city bike installation. The city bike installation could have expanded instead of into the street in front of the houses, locking in the houses that are down the street from it, could have expanded onto the sidewalk, leaving those houses without access. The DOT eventually determined, hey, you guys are good. We think you're fine. And we're going to go ahead and move forward with this. And if there's some determination later on that we might back up on this, we can remove the site. I just saw a comment in the chat that the DOT presented this previously. It was not presented. At no point was anybody in our community informed that this was going to be happening. So the challenge for us is, why did the community board not get back to us? Why were alternatives not considered? What is the pathway to be able to consider those alternatives? Because the DOT did present this as something that could be changed. And I know there's a number of members of my community that are also very frustrated. They weren't able to speak to anybody, people that were directly impacted by this expanding in front of their homes.
I saw Eric comment, Eric, who is our chair of our transportation committee, that this was not subject to our vote, that they only presented for information. I don't know what the notification requirements are. Eric, can you address this briefly?
Peter, I don't know what notification requirements there are for city bike installation. It is under the jurisdiction of DOT. They do have control over the streets. So I don't believe that there's a notification required other than what they did in posting the signs on the street. I will say that some of Blake's neighbors did attend the presentation last month and did raise the concerns. So DOT definitely heard the concerns from folks on the block.
So DOT is punting on this and claiming that this was under your purview, though. That's the way that they're framing it to us when they talk to us about this. So I think the thing that I'm really asking about is, how do we go about remedying this situation and looking for a different way for that thing to be installed, so we can free up the houses that it's currently locked in front of? Because the installation did go forward, and there are houses that are now locked in by those bike installations.
Is Leroy on the?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess the best way to approach this would be, if the community board wants to take this up, is to send a letter or an email to us at DOT asking us to reopen this back up. More than likely, there's a couple of things that I heard. In terms of notification, we did exactly how we handle it.
Yeah. Hey, Leroy, can I just jump on there? Because I'm looking now. Sure. On top of that, for a month, literally at every single kiosk, and I'm looking at the post right now, it said City Bike expansion meeting on the kiosk for a month. So I don't know, if you were literally just walking around or signed up for our emails, the notification on top of what Leroy is referencing with regards to DOT, their standard notification. But on top of that, we had enhanced notification that you could just find out about walking down the street, and not just walking down the street. It had the literal shortened link, which was the link to the meeting that you could have attended, that anyone could have attended, was bit.ly CB6 City Bike 7-8. So there was plenty of notification on that. I understand that people are opposed, certainly get that people are opposed to it, but with regards to notification, it was ample and quite public. If you hear, I'll put it in the chat, the picture that I'm referring to, that was also posted on our social media.
Let's take this off.
Mike, I appreciate that you feel like you notified us, but I would tell you that my neighbors and I do not feel that way. I'm not the only one who's saying this. Okay, wave your hand in front of the camera all you want, but there were 5 or 6 of us that emailed you.
Can we not debate this now, please? Can we take
My frustration is that Mike didn't answer, right?
What?
We didn't hear back from anybody in your group from this. We can wait. We can talk about this offline. If there's a way to actually address this, we're interested in remedying it, not
Yes.
debating whether or not there was notification.
There
It sounds like that's what
there
you're
is a
saying.
way of remedying it. My email is Fleming, Fleming, the initial P for Peter and D for David at AOL.com. If you email me privately, I will make sure that it gets taken care of.
Peter, if I could just say this last thing, Peter.
Yes.
We did hear some of the residents that were at the meeting in terms of their not wanting us to expand in front of their building. We looked at that, but we still thought that this was the best way to expand it. It's not that we heard them, we understood what they were saying, but we felt that this was the best way to expand this station. Just so everyone knows that. Now, if you want to take this to go further, like I said, send us an email and we can take another look at it.
Peter Fleming, that's who we should email?
Yes, email me. I'm the chair of the community board. I mean, just type my email into the chat.
Thank you.
No.
Was there anyone else that wanted to be recognized for community session?
Yeah, we have a couple more hands. Deborah Tackney, I'm going to allow you to speak now.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Deborah Tackney, and I own a condominium down at Columbia Terrace. Columbia Terrace is probably one of the first affordable housing developments that occurred in the city. I've owned the condominium since 1986. We're a community of about 5 phases that live down between Columbia Street and Van Brunt in what is now called the Columbia Waterfront District. One of the problems and concerns that we have living down there right now, I'm trying to work on getting a stoplight or a 4-way stop on the corner of President Street and Columbia, because the traffic that comes down Columbia Street has traffic lights all the way through except for our intersection. We are a large community that tries to cross to the bodega, and so you take your life in your hands trying to cross Columbia. But my main concern with Community Board 6 is to help us out down there for 2 different projects. One of them is the reconstruction of the BQE that I noticed that Bill de Blasio is now going to put back on the burner. And one of our great concerns is that the alternate routes for most of the traffic will be down Columbia Street. For those of you who know, Columbia Street has a BQE entrance right at the Atlantic Avenue intersection, and then it has a BQE entrance around the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel or the Ucari Tunnel. In addition to that, we're very concerned over Amazon opening up their warehouses in Red Hook. For those of you who do know the Red Hook area, I am very concerned with the infrastructure of the surrounding area, of how those tractor trailers are now going to come upon, again, I imagine our neighborhood, coming down Columbia Street, sometimes detouring off DeGraw onto Van Brunt. And so right now we're very concerned because we all live, there's a large community of people living down there who have to cross Columbia Street. And we're assuming that most of the traffic for these 2 giant projects are going to end up in our neighborhood. And I was just wondering if the Transportation Committee or if anyone else is aware or on the ground to represent us when these plans start taking place.
Eric,
do you want to say to
Yeah, sure. Deborah, thanks for raising these concerns. If you could email the office about the traffic, the stop sign.
I did.
concerns.
I've done that twice already. So
Okay, we can try to.
I don't have anything on that, but we are on not just on the Columbia Street stuff, but on the issue with Amazon, we are pushing, and Leroy from DOT would certainly know this. We have written and we are requesting in the budget for there to be a comprehensive traffic study in relation to these last mile, the last mile distribution. I couldn't think of the word for it, but Amazon.
Also Resilient Red Hook is really involved in this, please.
Yes.
So,
They were, yeah. And Jim Timpakis, who is not here tonight, but people like that push it.
Hildegard Link, the chair of Resilient Red Hook.
Yes, no, I know. I was just
is involved in doing this. You are welcome to get a hold of Resilient Red Hook. You can find us on the internet, Resilient Red Hook, and you can send us a note and we will share with you everything we're doing, and we would be happy to have you do this.
Yes.
Yes, our first letter was thanks to Resilient Red Hook.
Great. And then
Thank
I'm
you.
thinking about the BQE renovation, seriously, about the cantilever. And I'm thinking of how are they going to do this? Because that's right down by us. You know, the Atlantic Avenue is where the.
Okay, your time is up.
Okay.
I don't know that we know what those plans are yet. But again, you know, if you reach out either to me or to Mike, we'll try and see what we can find out for you.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
I think we have errors on that committee.
More from community session.
Yeah, next is Joyce Kalpak. You're allowed to unmute yourself now.
Good evening. Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Joyce Kopak, and I am the managing librarian at the Red Hook Library. I wanted to introduce myself, and I wanted to let you know that we're here and we're open. And while we've been providing limited services for the last 9 months, we are planning on opening further in the next month or so. Currently, we're only open for people to pick up their holds and to drop books off. We're planning on opening, as I said, opening some more branches in a more, for more service, I would say. We're also planning on extended Wi-Fi so folks can come and use the Wi-Fi and sit outside in furniture outside of the buildings. And we've continued to provide services virtually, programming. Red Hook, Park Slope, and Pacific are all open at this time for the grab and go service. And I will plan on attending each month to let you know what's going on at Brooklyn Public Library. So good evening and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers, Ty?
Yeah, next is Beth Palazzo. You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Hi, I'm Beth Palazzo. I've been living here on Butler Street since 1981, and I am one of the people who has been trying to contact most of you with emails at Community Board 6 regarding the bikes expansion. My husband is one of the people who is 85 years old, and we need wheelchair access. In fact, anyone does. The way the bikes are now, we have no access to the street except going all the way up to the corner where the movie theater is. And I find that pretty untenable. This winter, even with the bike path not expanded, nobody cleaned it. So I did snow removal, so we had at least a path to the street. I know that you're saying to email you and to bring things up, but we have emailed everybody, we have, and gotten no response, which I find rather not terribly helpful. I worked for Newsweek magazine, and I know we responded to the people who contacted us. I am one of many number of people on the block. None of us has gotten a response. You are supposed to be representing us, and yet I don't feel it. I really don't care about the notifications as much as, instead of the red tape and the mumbo jumbo, what are we going to do about it?
Please email me privately, FlemingPD@AOL.com, FLEMING, P for Peter, D for David @AOL.com, and we will take care of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry that we didn't respond in a timely manner.
At all.
Anyone else, Ty?
Yes, next is Barbara Stallworth. You should be able to unmute yourself now, Barbara.
Hi, this is my first community board meeting, so thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. And I appreciate all the updates. I just, I live on St. John's Place between 5th and 6th Avenues, and they have been digging up the street for the last 2 months, and they had notices on the door saying that the work would be completed by April 9th, and obviously we're past that, and the work is still going on, and it looks like they're replacing the gas lines, in case I didn't mention that, is my understanding. And it looks like with the 5 perhaps DOT workers that are working on this massive project, that it is far behind schedule. And I was just wondering, is there anything that the community board can do to get some attention given to this project?
So, Barbara, so on that, that's the I think it's the Triumph construction project, correct?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, it's like a massive, yeah, no, so myself, and I don't know if Nicole's still on this, but I know that we have been involved in pre-pandemic. Ty went to the St. John's Place Association meeting on our behalf. This has been what you're describing is probably the kindest way I've heard it described. That it's been consistently something where it's going over the date and just a lot of problems with it. We are trying to push DDC on it. I mean, I think it's one of those things where it's a necessary project. And I think most of the residents are clear with that. But even like, you know, I've worked at the mayor's office. We're trying to get, you know, certain alternate side parking regulations suspended while this is in place. And it just seems like that Triumph is problematic, but at the same time, like, my understanding, and I'm not speaking for DDC on this, but, you know, they're not going to cancel the contract in the middle of it, because then the hell that you're going through would even be extended further. So we are trying to push on it. I'm happy. I wish it weren't the case. You know, if we had more than. I'm sorry. Yep.
No, I appreciate that. But the challenge is that I know this may be true for many of you on the call, but working at home and having it feel like you're in the middle of a construction site from 7 a.m. to 3 or so, because they don't really work the full day. And with 5 construction people working on a project of this size, it's not also a very good use of resources. And I don't want to be petty and take pictures, but I just can't imagine a project of this size with the number of resources that are working on it, that it will ever get done. And then once the gas lines are done, they'll have to dig up the street once again to fix the water lines. And it was last year that we went through the same situation. And it's just very, very disruptive.
No, I don't envy anybody in that position.
You know, I mean, it's clear that we're doing what we can. Unfortunately, there's only a limited amount we can do with an outside contractor. And, you know, our role, unfortunately, is primarily advisory. But, you know, make sure Mike has your email so that when he does know anything new, that he can pass it on to you.
Barbara, we also work very closely with the St. John's Association.
Nicole. I didn't know if Nicole was still on the line. Hey.
Hi, I'm with Councilmember Lander's office. So we work closely with St. John's Place Community Association. I could also loop you in with them. They have a direct contact as well to the construction group, the liaison, so we can put you in touch and get some more information. I'm also going to get an update on the project because we've been having.
On that front, Edward from the mayor's office just texted me saying he's an updated timeline on it. Edward, are you on the line still, or?
I am. So.
Hi, Edward.
How you doing? So for the St. John's Place between 6th Avenue and 7th Avenue, and this is from the contractor, the dates they have now or that they're operating on is from April 26th through May 10th. And so they said that portion of the work was going to last 2 months, and then they're going to move on to St. John's Place between 7th Avenue and 8th Avenue, and that's going to begin on July 12th, and it's going to run through July 26th. So that's sort of like the timeline they're operating on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, they've exceeded the 5th to 6th because they're only a 16th of the way up the block, and they're past the deadline date.
Great. Is there anybody else, Ty?
Yeah, there is. Stephen DiGregoria is our last community member.
And I have a quick announcement to make.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Stephen DiGregoria. I live on Congress Street between
Clinton Court. And as a follow-up on the city bike discussion, I think I was at the Transportation Committee meeting where that was discussed and had the opportunity to speak on the expansion from Congress Street. And that's, I think, what most of the comments focused on, but didn't touch on Butler Street. I was hoping though, because it sounds like Leroy's from Department of Transportation and mentioned that, stuff was looked at and decisions had been made to move forward. Because those discussions were around the Congress Street expansion, I was wondering if there were any updates from DOT on where thoughts were there, and if not, who we can get in touch with regards to that. And thank you very much.
Anybody have an answer for that? If not, Mike will have to get back to you. Make sure you post your email in the chat and Mike will get a response to you.
This might be a good time for me to make a brief announcement. I just wanted to let everyone know that I am organizing a series of walking tours for the Park and Environmental Protection Committee. Of course, you're all invited, and we're going to be touring parks, community gardens, playgrounds throughout our district, visiting plenty of them. We're going to start May 1st, go from 10 to 1. We're going to visit parks in Cobble Hill, Carroll Gardens, into Gowanus. On the next day, May 2nd, we're going to visit several parks in Red Hook. And then the following weekend, May 8th, we will pick up in Gowanus and visit some parks in Park Slope, including Washington Park and Prospect Park. I've been in contact with volunteer groups, Prospect Park Alliance, other park groups. So we hope to assess conditions, discuss issues with neighbors, volunteers, and anyone who cares to join us, and then follow up with a May 19th Parks and Environmental Protection Committee meeting so that we can ask some questions of the Parks Department and hear some status reports on the renovations in Red Hook and elsewhere. So if anybody has any interest in this, please do reach out to me. And if you have any suggestions, I'd be happy to hear them.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate it.
Mike is going to put this up in his daily newsletter when we get closer to the date. So that's May 1st, May 2nd, May 8th, with a Parks meeting on May 19th. Just wanted to give you a heads up.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
If you really want to get ahead of it, you can sign up for the May 19th meeting tomorrow on our website. The Zoom link will be there if you really, want it. But I think the walking tours will probably be more exciting than signing up for the Zoom.
Thank you for your generous assessment. Exciting, yes.
Well, I mean, they seem interesting.
I'll
Thank you,
try to make
everyone.
them as exciting as
Again,
possible.
please remember to reach out to the
Yes.
board office or to me personally if you have any questions. I'm happy to try and help.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thanks. Good
Good night, everyone.
Right.